The New York Football Giants beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-24 as part of Wildcard weekend in a dominant game by Daniel Jones, a phenomenally coached game by the coaching staff, and we are looking ahead to a divisional battle next week against the Philadelphia Eagles in the divisional round. Who saw this coming? Let's get into it. Welcome to the first episode of Nothing But Giants. I'm your host, Jeff Crewman, and we've got a really exciting first episode to share with you guys today. Again, the Giants beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-24 in the playoffs, moving on to the divisional round against the Eagles. And I don't know about you, but I could not be more excited. We're going to do a quick breakdown of the offense from the Minnesota game. We'll talk a little bit about the defense, and then we'll do a quick look ahead to the game against the Eagles this Saturday at 8:30. So we can't talk about the offense without talking about Daniel Jones. He has become the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and at least 70 yards on the ground. I mean, it was a virtuoso performance. And while I don't want to get overly excited about one performance when he's had a little bit of a obviously struggled and challenging career so far. But I think we have seen a change in Daniel Jones, and I feel like we really saw this is not just a peak that he's going to retreat from, but something he's going to be able to build on. And we've seen it the entire second half of this season, since they've really gone to putting the ball in Daniel Jones's hands, giving him an opportunity to throw the ball downfield despite having minimal weapons around him, which we will come back to in a second. He has shown that he is ready, and he has shown that not only can he make all of the throws, which I think we've known, but he's also got this incredible awareness of when to take off with his feet. And it is just a challenge that even when teams like Minnesota are trying to get after him, that he can just step up in the pocket and take off, and not just take off and be quick, but also put a shoulder or a stiff arm into a guy and absolutely level him. The running was exciting, but the 2 plays that really stood out to me happened in a row. And one was that throw to Hodgins on the sideline where Daniel Jones rolled out to his left, reset his feet, and put an absolute dime on the sideline for Hodgins. Really reminded me of the Eli Manning to Mario Manningham catch of the Super Bowl of yesteryear. Just a beautiful play. And then in an attempt to get them to not challenge it, even though it would have withstood, he throws another phenomenal throw to Darius Slayton up the right sideline that Slayton can't come down with. You can't help but feel like if Daniel Jones had somebody like Justin Jefferson on that play, that they're coming down with that ball. But just 2 phenomenal throws by Daniel Jones as part of a tremendous game. And I know all of the talk now on the internet streets is about his contract situation. And we'll have plenty of time to get into that. But I think it is clear that Daniel Jones is the present and the future of the New York Giants at quarterback. I could not be more excited for this guy. Just continues to do the right thing. And honestly, it's a fan take, but you just love seeing the excitement of the guys on the sideline for him, the reaction in the locker room to his performance. It's great to see that we have this leader, a quiet, confident guy who can be the face of this franchise. Obviously can't talk about the offense also without talking about Saquon Barkley. Did not fill up the stat sheet exactly with only 14 touches of the ball, but it felt like every time he touched the ball, it was an impact play, and he was making things happen. And I almost think the more important thing is about halfway through the season, the Giants really made a seemingly conscious adjustment to get away from just being a straight handoff team and handing it to Saquon or Breida for 30-plus touches a game. They've gotten more into passing on early downs, and now it's changed the defensive strategy. For weeks there, when we were losing games in the middle of the season, it felt like they were just stacking the box against us, like daring us to throw the ball. And now that we've kind of thrown defensive strategies off by throwing the ball, by opening it up, by letting Daniel Jones run, we're seeing that there are more and more favorable play calls for Saquon to get the ball either out of the backfield in a straight handoff or in the passing game, which looked fantastic for him this week. So I'm really excited to see how this matches up against the Eagles. It's maybe we get back to the Eagles have shown a propensity to be beaten on the ground. So maybe we see more than just 9 handoffs to Saquon this week, but I love that we don't have to hand all the ball off to him to be successful. And that defenses are unable to just sit there and stack the box against it. It should open up for some opportunities in this game coming up. And hopefully when Kafka and DJ and Dayball recognize these opportunities, they can make the right play call and make it happen, get the ball in his hands. I think it's worth touching on the offensive line, which has definitely been a sore spot of the team this year, with the exception of Andrew Thomas at left tackle. Evan Neal continues to struggle quite a bit there on the right side. But other than him, I felt like John Feliciano and Nick Gates really showed up and played a very solid game. you couldn't help but pause and feel like things were going really the wrong way when on the first offensive play of the game, they call Nick Gates on that holding. I thought, here we go again. Another Giants letdown. We're just going to get steamrolled here. But they really played great, phenomenal in the run blocking, and they did just enough in pass pro to give Daniel Jones time to get the ball out quickly or turn around and run. I think we only gave up 4 sacks or something like that, which isn't great, but at the same time, the Eagles are going to get to us a little bit too. They're going to be a problem, but hopefully the offensive line can continue this momentum and continue to play just well enough to get us across the finish line against the Eagles. And want to take us another second to talk about just the offensive weapons in general. I mean, I think the narrative has been completely debunked that Daniel Jones does not make the players around him better, because he is making Isaiah Hodgins look like an all-star right now, going for over 100 yards, just looking fantastic. I think it's worth remembering that Isaiah Hodgins was cut by the Buffalo Bills. He was sitting on their practice squad, and now he's putting up 100 yards in his first playoff game. I mean, that's just a fantastic find by our personnel department to realize that this was a guy that could help us. And great job by the coaching staff to integrate him into getting him in situations where he can be successful. I never would have thought that coming into this season that we would have had a chance to be in the playoffs, let alone winning games with Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, who I did not know before the season, and Darius Slayton. It makes you excited about the future. If we're looking this good with this frankly ragtag bunch of guys playing wide receiver, imagine what it would look like if we had an actual star wide receiver on this team to support. But speaking of star wide receivers, we would be remiss to not bring up Kenny Golladay, who did not really get on the field at all, but when he did, laid a fantastic block on a play for Saquon Barkley that opened up for 10 yards. For as much as it is easy to sit here and criticize Kenny Golladay for his lack of production as a Giant, you got to give him a little bit of a tip of the cap for keeping his head in the game, showing up, and really giving his all on a blocking play. These are the things that do not show up in the stat sheet. They are not going to make him probably much more money in the future, but as a fan, you absolutely love it. It got me out of my seat. I was excited to see it. Hopefully we can continue to see him play even a small role for us against the Eagles. And before we wrap up the offense, I think it's worth just spending a second to really just appreciate this coaching staff. Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll are just master workers with this offense. Again, with the deficient pieces that we have at the skill positions, with Daniel Jones having been struggling his entire career, with the deficiencies on the offensive line, to put this kind of performance, to get this team playing the way that it has and putting up 30 points for only like the second time this season in the playoffs, you just have to tip your cap to them. We had these guys, Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton, who have struggled to get separation all year, are running wide open against this Minnesota defense, which we know has not been the strongest. But nonetheless, this is a playoff game. You're seeing everybody's best shot. There's more pressure. And we showed out. And it is just so exciting to know that we have the right coaching staff in place. I know there are already discussions about Kafka and Wink Martindale on the defensive side getting head coaching interviews. And you know what? I don't want them to leave, but at least it's exciting to know that Giants coaches are desired somewhere else. Nobody was ever interviewing Patrick Graham and Jason Garrett and other people for being a head coach. We have really developed a fantastic infrastructure of the organization, and I'm really excited to see us continue to grow beyond the success of this season. And now we're going to shift into the defense, and I'm going to stick right with the coaching, because I think we can't even talk about the defense without talking about Wink Martindale. I personally was expecting to see them try to get after Kirk Cousins, play his traditional man defense on the outside, a lot of pressure up the middle. But that was not what we did. We were very comfortable playing in coverage in soft zone all game. It almost seemed like it threw the commentators off because they were expecting the traditional Wink blitz heavy defense. And all we got was drop back, double Justin Jefferson. And you know what? It worked. I mean, we didn't have any sacks. We did not create any turnovers. But Justin Jefferson was limited to, I think, like 8 catches and like 40-something yards. Just an absolutely fantastic performance to take away their best piece. We said, hey, look, you might beat us, but you're not going to beat us with Justin Jefferson. And I think it takes a lot of balls to completely buck your game plan. And just great job by Wink and the defensive strategy. Excited to see what they cook up this coming week. Another change of strategy again this week. But, despite highlighting that we had no sacks, we have to give Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy, a little bit of love on this show. He had a team high 8 pressures. And it just feels like he is a dominant, unstoppable force in the middle of the line. You almost feel bad for the center and the guards who have to face him. Felt like he was in Kirk Cousins' face all day. And while he didn't get home, considering they were rushing 4 constantly, it's really just great to see him establish himself up the middle as a bona fide superstar, totally worthy of that all-pro designation that he got this year, especially on such a great season for defensive tackles. Excited to see him continue to be a piece this defense builds around. Just a great performance from Dexter Lawrence this week. And I want to talk about 2 corners right now, which has been a little bit of a challenging spot for us in the second half of the season. But the first one is going to be less obvious, and that is Cordell Flott. He was on the field 3 times for 3 defensive snaps, but was in for that huge 3rd and 8 play where he broke up the play to Osborne. I mean, he is clearly still a little bit undersized, has some room to grow as a defensive piece, but just really exciting to see him get some playing time and such a crucial moment of the game and coming up big. He was one of our draft picks this past year, has not been on the field a ton, but has shown some great ball skills and some great quickness when getting the opportunity out in the field, and excited to see him continue to grow with the team in the future. And then the man that we have been missing for the second half of the season, and you can't help but feel like some of our defensive struggles stem from losing this guy on that special teams play weeks ago, but Adoree Jackson was back. He was on Justin Jefferson this week, covering him for 85% of plays. They were double teaming him, so it wasn't like he was on an island by himself over there. But on those snaps where Adoree Jackson was covering him, Justin Jefferson had 6 catches and 37 yards. He is a difference maker. He looked good. He making tackles in the backfield. And even when Jefferson and other receivers made a play, it seemed like we were on top of them right away and making tackles. So nice to have Adoree Jackson back. Him and Xavier McKinney make this secondary much more formidable and make it a lot tougher to just grab that number 1 receiver and throw to him all day, because clearly we've shown we can take him away. Obviously, it's going to be a different story next week against Philadelphia with their tremendous corners with James Bradbury and Darius Slay, along with their pass rush. But I am excited about the ability to put Adoree Jackson on their best receiver, probably A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, and just stay with him all game and hopefully limit him. So good to see Adoree Jackson back. Considering they didn't make any plays, the defense played very well. They took the Vikings' best shot on offense, and they held. And that's really all you can ask for in the wild card. Excited to see what they do against Philadelphia. So going to spend a quick minute and just look ahead to the Eagles. It is no surprise that the Philadelphia Eagles have been a problem for the New York Giants. I think we have lost 9 times in a row going to the Link. It is a challenging place to play. It's going to be even more challenging on an 8:30 Saturday night game when there's no school the next day. I would not want to be a Giants fan in that stadium on Saturday night. Jalen Hurts was playing at an MVP level all year until this shoulder injury. Obviously, if he is 100%, that is a scary prospect, especially with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown running routes for him. But he did not look great in that last week matchup against our backups. And it seems like he is not 100%. So even though Jalen Hurts has been a very consistent, solid player all year, it seems like if we can get to him, create a little bit of rattling, he might not be at 100% health, and that is an opportunity for us to stay in the game. Hopefully he makes a mistake or two that we can capitalize on, because it is going to be tough for the Eagles to play a flawless game offensively and for the Giants to stay in this. A lot of criticism of the Giants taking away from the shine of the win, saying that Minnesota's defense has been fugazi, not very good. And the Eagles' defense is a totally different beast. They are significantly better. Their pass rush is elite at all levels. And their secondary has been fantastic. So it's going to require another fantastic performance from the New York Giants offense and Daniel Jones. I'm excited to see what the offensive game plan is coming into this game, if we hand the ball off a little bit more, or if we continue to stick with this pass-first offense, especially on early downs. And ultimately, I think what it comes down to, besides that, is really the coaching staff. Nick Sirianni's shown to be doing a great job in Philadelphia, really has that team clicking on all cylinders. But the Giants have momentum. And after everything we just said about struggling against the Eagles at the Link, losing the 2 games this season to the Eagles, it feels like the Giants are on an upward swing right now, playing well down the stretch, having a good effort against the Eagles in that last game of the regular season with the backups, getting this big emotional win against the Minnesota Vikings, while the Philadelphia Eagles are licking their wounds and getting ready to play and watching a hot team show up to Philadelphia ready for them. So I'm excited to see what the defensive game plan is. I'm curious to see if we stay back in that coverage or if we try and get in Jalen Hurts' face a little bit more. I'm really excited to see the offensive game plan, see how we use Daniel Jones's legs to get him away from that pressure, which we know is coming. And even though the Giants are 7.5-point underdogs, you can't help but feel like we have a fighter's chance, and we could be 1 game away from the Super Bowl if we win this Saturday. It is exciting times to be a Giants fan. I can't wait. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you're looking forward to in this game. And make sure you like and subscribe to this video for more Giants content. We'll be out with another video after the Giants game on Saturday. And until then, let's go Giants.